welcome everyone back again to another Scholars of Kiora podcast. My name is Levoris, and I'll be your host for today. I am joined with a couple of lovely fellows. Would you all go around, please introduce yourselves?
Hello, I am Toa of Sparda.
Hello, this is Pilot.
And I'm the Toa of Forests.
Or as YouTube likes to call him, Toa Forests. Right, today we're here to discuss something quite cool. We're here to discuss the Cataclysm Collab, hosted by ManiaMac and Shade.
Yep.
Got that right, didn't I? Yeah. So, first off, we'll go over a little bit of what the podcast, or what the collab was. It was a collaboration hosted by ManiaMac and Shade, as I said, involving the invasion of the Bionicle multiverse by a race known as the Collectors. These were a race of pretty much immortal beings that could die if you removed a resonator spike off their back, but otherwise they would pretty much just get up and carry on. And the main gimmick that they had is that when invading these dimensions, they could copy the abilities of the inhabitants native to that realm. So, yeah, that's pretty much the overview. So, Pilot, do you think you could explain a bit to our viewers on our involvement with the collaboration?
Sure. So, the Collector Collab, essentially, how it works is, everyone sort of creates their own story involving the Collectors. So, the Collectors invade their universe and, adapt to the different abilities of their characters. And that kind of is perfect for us because our characters all come from different universes. So, we sort of had the idea to do somewhat of a crossover between all of our stories, where the Collectors invade, steal our powers, and then would have this big, intertwining story with, an epic climax at the end, right? And, we were sort of working on this alongside our other, main story project, that we're planning on exploring in the comic series that we announced more recently. And, so that plan did wind up falling through just because we, kind of fell behind, and, the final nail was put in the coffin when, it was announced on the Collector Collab server that, scripts were due, and we literally had nothing in terms of a script. All we really had at that point was just our
we had our concept, but we were far from script.
Exactly.
Yep.
No dialogue, no, actual story, just ideas on a page, essentially, is what we had, and some mocks, too, I guess.
We were a little overly ambitious. We were set with our concept, but the idea that we essentially were going to have, I think we were up to 4 collectors across, all our universes, and suddenly we were going to have them meld into some Lovecraftian horror at the end.
Yeah.
we were thinking Avengers Endgame level stuff, and it's just to do that in 6 months was definitely ambitious.
Ambitious,
Yeah.
I think the whole premise is that we're going to have our collectors merge into what was called the Collector Queen, and basically going to be this big next level, xenomorph looking as collector.
Yeah. Yeah, and ManiaMac and Shade did actually approve of that idea, didn't they?
Yes, I did. I did reach out to ManiaMac, and he said that was fine.
Yeah, which I think if that idea did actually pan out, that would have been kind of cool. But yeah, it it just kind of became too much with our other projects going on, since we have our main story, and then we also have to do videos for the channel, and we also have our own stuff that we do outside of the SOK, so, it just wasn't, just didn't pan out, I guess.
For now.
What do you mean for now?
Well, if there is a part 2, let's say, we could definitely jump on that bandwagon.
Yeah, I think we'd definitely consider it.
Actually get the script done this time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Alright then. Yeah, that was our involvement with the collabers. We got some ideas run past by Maniac, and he said yes, but then we just didn't do anything revolving what was actually required to properly advance the collaboration. So, right. So, seeing as we've basically discussed what we did. How about we discuss what other people have done? So, ManiaMac put together a playlist with 28 videos. And so, what were your favorite entries off this list? There's quite a couple.
Definitely I believe it was called Firestorm. I'd have to look back at like the actual name. But that one was one of my favorites because it kind of put a very unique spin on like the whole story. Because like a common thing between a lot of the entries that you'll notice is they're all very dramatic in their story, right? And that one I really liked because it kind of had a more comedic take. And I know what's his name, like Mecha's entry also did this, where it kind of did like a twist on the whole collector concept, as like instead of having them be like enemies to the heroes, they're kind of like they almost become friends with them. And like throughout like Firestorm you kind of see, like at like the start you have these two kind of lower level like minion guys who encounter this collector lord and they become friends, right? Like best friends. They show him.
They encounter the Collector, and then they evolve him into Collector Lord.
Right.
They still remain friends, and it's pretty cool.
Yeah, exactly. So like they find, like the Collector, and like they become like best buddies, and like they show him all that like their universe has to offer, like ice cream, and yeah, and it kind of has this like nice final climax where, the Collector Lord, kind of has to like face the fact that like what he's doing isn't really normal for a collector. Like collectors are supposed to be like conquerors of universes, not like
he's out here hanging out with friends.
Yeah, and he has to kind of confront that.
Another collector lord, so it's collector lord versus collector lord.
Which I actually see was quite a prominent take though. There's a lot of collector versus collector battles during the series, like all of the different episodes.
Another thing I did enjoy about that entry was the Zarek mob, and not just the fact, oh, it's a Zarek mob. Oh no, this guy was a cowboy.
Yeehaw.
Hat and all, yeah.
Yeah, and that also kind of contrasted against like the more like, comedic characters in it. Since like, what Wally is kind of like a joke too, like Zarek in that is kind of more serious about collectors as like a threat. And that, kind of creates more conflict.
Oh, there definitely was a different entry, because it kind of shows like what happens when the collectors turn up and the people that encounter them don't react to them in a negative manner.
Right.
Because there's quite a couple of entries in there where basically the collectors start fighting back. Per se, it's not like they're invading, but then they are fighting back because they get attacked first by the people already in the universe.
Right.
Like
I know, like ManiaMac and Shades thing is kind of like that, because like I know there are like some characters in that who kind of are like previously like aware of like what collectors are. Like I know Zarek as like a character is kind of like that.
He's got his interdimensional buddies that tell him
exactly.
You're like,
his,
yo, other me.
Yeah, he has his
the collectors are coming.
The League of Zarek.
Council of Zarek.
Well, whatever it is. He has his counterparts.
Alright, well, Sparda, what was your favorite entry?
My favorite entry was indeed ManiaMac and Shades collaboration together. That they have dedicated a lot of time over the past year to making this to be, arguably their best work to date. And I was there for the premiere, and I could see the amount of effort and work that was put into it, not just for the mocks and stuff like that, but the story, animation, dialogue. So
definitely,
this is hands down their best work together. And his Collector Lord, I forget the name of it, but ManiaMac's, just the sheer size of it was, in its most powerful form was awe-inspiring.
Yeah, I like how their Collector Lords all kind of had a like unique personality. Because like you had like the one like I think it's the one you're talking about, like the red and blue one, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like that one is kind of
my own heart.
Yeah. Yeah, like that one is like, kind of your typical collector lord, like all powerful, wants to like conquer stuff. And then you have the one like magician dude. I forget his name because like it's been a while since I've seen it, but
It's like Calcia or something.
yeah, something like that. But he's kind of more, not necessarily. I don't know. I mean, kind of goofy.
He's not a
like,
brute. Just simply leave it at that.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's definitely more like to explore rather than conquer. He's trying to enjoy the environment rather than overpower it.
Yeah, and I think a big part of like his character too is just that he's like jealous, Like he has like that whole like love triangle thing with like those other two characters where he like wants to, date the one, but then, she doesn't like him back, so he like brainwashes her or whatever.
It's like a very, very, very weird solution to the problem.
Yeah.
Alright, what about you, Forrest?
Well, my favorite entry was probably Mecha's entry, The Explosive Date. It wasn't maybe the most complex in terms of plot and stuff, but I think it was pretty entertaining at least. Also, it had Uncle Iroh in it, so...
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that was cool.
That was a very welcome surprise, and I was watching that. I was like, hold on. But yeah. Anything you guys want to say about that one? Or
I mean, I enjoyed that one too. Kind of like Firestorm, it was also one of the more comedic ones. I kind of put a unique spin on the collector story. Mm-hmm. Like I think in general, that's kind of a like a cool kind of aspect of this whole collab thing is like. Everyone can kind of put their own like unique spin on the story. Mm-hmm. It doesn't have to be just one.
Something I liked quite a lot is that it is in continuity with the two entries by Shade and ManiaMac.
It is, yeah.
Like they actually state go watch that one first.
And
I was like, hey, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, my favorite one was Thunderous. One where it's like the one guy he repairs stuff. Trying to sell this one item, and then like, the collectors turn up in his base, and like because there's basically three collectors, but two of them show powers of being able to shapeshift and take the appearance of other characters.
Mm-hmm.
Now I thought that was really interesting as a concept. As basically it turns it like into a massive like game of terrorist hunters. Like, is this guy the guy I know, or is this one of the collector dudes? And you got to turn him around and see if he's got that spike. You're like, you got me there, boy. Here comes the pliers, dude. Everything's got to come up.
One thing I really liked on that one was the massive purple collector lord, given, of course, the rarity of purple parts. So that's where it was just like, oh, that is amazing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Something I've very much enjoyed out of this entire collaboration is just like the variety of collectors. How they all kind of like evolved into different ways because of different reasons. I thought... Yeah, I think that ManiaMac and Shade really did manage to strike like a bit of gold with the idea of how to make a collab that doesn't necessarily have to have everyone working together, but can still be a concise and united product.
Yeah, like you can kind of tell that just like watching like the entries, like they're all kind of like consistent with each other, like in terms of ideas, and they kind of all like contribute to like make something that's, bigger.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, banking off what Sparda just mentioned about the Purple Collector Lord, what were your guys' favourite Collector Lords? Because there was a lot of designs in this. A lot of them look really cool.
Yeah, definitely. I did really like the designs in Firestorm. Like the main Collector Lord, like the funny one. His design as like a Collector Lord, I think, was really cool. Like the vines and like the electricity and stuff. It was a very like electric color scheme that I liked a lot. And like the Collector Lord he fought too, I think was also cool. Especially since like they kind of have like contrasting colors, which I think plays into the story a bit.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of them that I did enjoy.
There is a lot of them.
Yeah, like, I can't say there's any, like, specific Collector Lord design that I didn't like, to be honest.
That is definitely... I share that same sentiment. One, I will say that it in a way it works well because of, you know, the little bit of simplicity is the Ironclad Warlord. You know, it wasn't crazy big, but it was essentially believable. You know, so some of these entries, it's great that they made, collector lords, but the idea is like, well, did they absorb, essentially, or absorb powers from larger beings and all that? And it's just like, no, all Toa-sized entities and resulted in a just over Toa-sized collector lord and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
So I just felt that was consistent with the story that was presented.
Yeah. I'm glad too that like the whole like restrictions on like how Collector Lord should look was kind of left open. Like the only like 2 requirements, if I remember right, were that they needed to have the Borok eye as like an eyepiece, and then the like the resonator spike on their back, right? And by limiting the amount of restrictions, I think it really opened up a lot of possibilities for people to be creative with their Collector Lord designs.
Mm-hmm. Our Collector Lord, I really liked the not necessarily complex, but I really did like, first of all, the way it was portrayed in the animation and how it kind of like evolved slowly, gradually grabbing bits. Was the collector from Andrew O'Sabi's entries. Like, his entry doesn't really have a name other than Cataclysm Collab entry.
Mm-hmm.
But I really did like the collector because it starts off relatively simple, and it goes as the heroes start fighting, it starts copying their abilities in the middle of combat. Eventually, it gains enough power to upgrade into Collector Lord, and I think that it's a very simple design, but it works. I like it quite a lot.
Yeah, that was one thing I liked about that entry was, I was about to be like another, simple collector, but then, when it was like, oh, it's, copying the hero's abilities, and much to my last point, okay, simple characters and stuff like that. And then it kept that theme of simplicity, and it's just like, hey, it worked.
A little something. I did like the amount of people that put horns on the collector's heads. It's kind of like they just kind of evolve that way, I guess.
Yeah.
It's almost like a concurrent running theme with like almost every single entry is that the Collector Lord must have thorns.
Yeah, I guess so. Because like it does kind of like just like from a design perspective, it does kind of make sense with them being like villains for the most part, and like it also kind of
there's
fits
already
in with
the resonator spike, and the Borok eyepiece is a spiked piece in of itself. So the idea is just I don't fault anyone for resorting to that. Heck, I was probably going to do the same
or
thing.
maybe everyone was just horny.
I just like how it just became like a consensus without people talking to each other. It just kind of happened.
Yeah.
Now, if it was a case of, resonator spike and stud, I'm sure we probably would have saw some more head variety, but given the fact that
it was because it was a Borok eyepiece. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
As another shout out I'd like to make is I really like the leg designs of the Collector Lord from the Cataclysmic Arrival entry by Blazing Lightning. I thought his leg designs were pretty cool. They have like a piston running through the leg and not like on the outside like you would normally see them on Titan side mocks.
Yeah. There's also like the one it was the one by Pug Productions that it was like the Collector Lord that was like a snake. I thought that was kind of cool since we were talking about like leg designs. Like about like most of the collectors are kind of more like humanoid,
bipedal.
Yeah, and that one was kind of different.
And a sneaky snake.
Yes.
Well, that reminds me, one of the more memorable ones that wasn't really humanoid was in Worlds Collide by Chris Lanakos. It was this giant Lovecraftian piranha thing that just gets yeeted into space.
However, I do really like the jaw design for that one. It's really cool. Yeah, so those are kind of like our favorite ones. We don't really have any unfavorite ones, really. Like none of them are kind of like, nah.
Yeah. At least not like in terms
Like-
of design.
Nah, like I'd say my least favorite was one female collector from ManiaMac and Shades,
Oh,
two-part one.
Zanthra, I think her
But
name
that's
was.
more of that's more of a personality thing. I don't mind the design. The design's actually pretty cool.
Yeah, I like the head tail things. That like talk to her and stuff.
I did really like how they did the claws on the end of that tail, with like the ball joint would then directly into the small spike.
Yeah.
Definitely adds a unique level of texture which you normally don't see. That is not a very common joint.
Yeah, it's very like emotive too, I think. Which helps with, giving them more character.
Yep, definitely. I did also like about that one is the legs. Like how it's got like 6 legs to go with.
Oh yeah, that's right. She
So-
also wasn't bipedal.
Yeah.
She was kind of more I guess spider-like. I know she doesn't have like actually like 8 legs, but kind of akin to a spider.
Yeah.
There wasn't any particular one I did not enjoy, but it's one thing. There were definitely a couple entries where I thought some of the collector lords were a little on the simpler side. Not trying to ding the builders, because, hey, I used to be there. And
Yeah, we all did.
Right.
We all start somewhere.
Right. So, and it's just a stepping stone in being a better mockist, and it's just like some of these large builds. Like I've rebuilt several of my mocks because at that point it's like I'm getting better now. This what once was a Stickman Titan. Now I know how to put beef on those limbs.
Stickman Titan. I like that.
Well, that's kind of like what was
Yeah.
going on with my one Makuta Titan I was making, and I was just trying to do I'll say the more traditional way, like we would make Titans and sets and stuff like that with that different hand connector, where where you can actually put an axle in, and then you can have two essentially work as a bone piece if you had 2 of them with a axle in there. But then it's just like, no, then I started doing like what I usually do for my simple custom limbs and stuff like that, and it's like, well, that adds beef, and it's actually a lot more, it's more economical, like, yes, more pieces, but the thing is, a lot more common pieces.
Yeah, that's definitely a trick to making better mocks is practice. It's not something you just randomly know. You're not born as the best mockist ever.
Yeah.
You got to earn that title, and that comes with practice. Yeah, it's
after months
obviously, but obviously, you guys are mentioning like how the mocks are kind of simple. As an animator myself, I will admit watching some of these hurts. But that's not necessarily a bad thing, because obviously everyone with animation as well starts from 0, and like I've gone through phases where my animation is worse than some of the entries, so I definitely get that feeling of I can't be mad at it being wrong, because I know that they haven't learnt enough to be right. And so the only thing I can do is praise them and encourage them to carry on doing animation to get it better next time.
Yeah,
Because that's one thing that's one thing with a lot of these things that you need to practice. Is that basically you can never get worse. You can only get better, but you can only get better if you practice getting better.
That is
because
true.
if you don't practice, so basically if you design your own custom body and then every single mock you make uses that custom body, you're never going to improve because you're basically staying at the same level.
Right.
but you can never go back. So once you've created the custom body, you're already at that level. You can't like degrade.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that is like another thing I kind of like about this collab is it does really give people like the opportunity to like practice their stop motion skills and and get better at it. Because I'm sure like without something like this to really like spark that creative drive in people, there would be a lot less coming out.
Yeah, but I wouldn't just say just the stop motion, but also story writing, character design.
Definitely, yeah.
Maybe that is more like the actual model design, and then also the personalities and getting all of that to work together. I know some people put special effects in by painting them on afterwards, and then some people actually did them like more physical things where they'd have like light, like torches and stuff, and sometimes using like stuff like pipe cleaners, like little colors and stuff with little abilities. So there's definitely like there's different ways to get these effects that people want, but there's obviously something that I can see people experimenting, and that's a good thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. All right. So now that we discussed a bit of the entries, I'd like to hear your guys' overall opinion on the collaboration as a whole.
I loved it personally. Like I haven't seen all of the entries, but like the ones that I did watch were all very like entertaining to watch, and it was interesting seeing people's different takes on the like the concept that ManiaMac and Shade presented. I know they've kind of done similar stuff in the past, like correct me if I'm wrong, but there was like a battles collab like in past years, right? Like people just make like a fight scene and enter that.
That was 2019, I believe. The year before that, Shade did, I think it was a comedy skit one. Like collab and stuff like that.
Yeah,
I actually did
stuff
an
like that,
entry for that.
Yeah, like stuff like that I think is really, really cool because it just brings the community together and, like I was saying before, kind of just sparks that creative drive in people, which I think is just better for the community as a whole.
Mm-hmm. And I share pretty much the same sentiment, but another thing that it does is it really helps kind of cement that this community is still strong and stuff like that. And like Element, I've got some ideas, kind of not to rehash some old topics, but as someone as an ever improving mockist, and we were just talking about some of the building techniques and stuff in some of these that we saw, and it's just like, okay, I'm gonna I'll try and experiment with something like that and see if I can get that to work on some of my mocks. So watching some of these large figures and stuff, and it's just like, okay, it's rekindled definitely some of my imagination and stuff like that, because but I have been feeling like a little bit in a creative rut lately, so
yeah, definitely.
But overall, I would definitely deem this as a massive success. I know that they, towards the end, ManiaMac and Shade had a little bit of problems, like like trying to compile everything in the end and stuff like that. There were a couple extensions to the deadline, but it wasn't too far. So, given the fact that everyone had an entire year to work on this, and in terms of managing everything, they did a phenomenal job, because the sheer amount of effort it took to even put all this together, that is a feat in of itself.
Absolutely. Cool. Well, I definitely really happy it worked out. Definitely, I would like another collab.
Yes, more, please.
It's totally not because I feel guilty we didn't participate in the last one, but there are certain reasons. Yes. Yeah, definitely looking forward to see what they do next. I personally actually would be interested in seeing if they would probably do like a part 2 and carry on the story.
Yeah, that could be interesting.
Could be interesting, but obviously you don't really want to overpush it, because then it becomes boring.
Yeah, they could just come up with like an entirely new concept as well.
But personally, I think that this concept is actually really good. And, with 28 entries, it's a lot. But I want to say probably would have been nice if there was more. Just as a community thing. This is not this isn't really a thing ManiaMac or Shade could have predicted. But I'm just saying, it would have been nice if this was like an entry, or rather, a collab with about 50 entries, in each one being relatively long. 10, 20 minutes around-ish. Because a good amount of them are 12-ish or
Yeah, they
40.
they tend to vary a lot
It's
in
like-
length, I think.
They varied a lot, but I was it's either the majority of them are either 12 or 40-something minutes. It's then you got a couple of outliers, but it would definitely be something to, it would be a very interesting watch if, it was 50 episodes. And each one was around 12 minutes. Well, 20 minutes, sorry. Just because, that's just me liking lots of content. But,
Yeah.
I'm definitely looking forward to see what they do next as a group. I definitely look forward to trying to do something to participate.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. I don't really have anything more to say. It was cool.
It was pretty cool.
Yeah, nice. Alright. Well, that's been our ideas and opinions on this Cataclysm collab. As we've all reiterated, we'd definitely like to see some more stuff in the future. If possible, I think it'd be nice if we could get ManiaMac and Shade here on the podcast as guests, so that's something we'll have a look at maybe doing in the future. Really up to them. But for now, that will be us done for today. This was the Scholars of Kiora, and we'll be bidding adieu. Thanks for watching. Subscribe, remember to turn on the notification bell, and if you're interested, join Discord, where we will occasionally join the VC.
Yes.
We're working on it. We'll be joining more. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Later.
See ya.